Where to start? Welcome back, guys. I know it's been a little bit since I did a video, but I'm going to be telling the whole story of this buck right here. So it's going to be a little bit, but it's a pretty crazy story, so stay tuned. Alright, to get started, guess we better jump right into it. So the first time I ever saw the wire buck, he was in my front yard along with another bigger buck. So he obviously wasn't even the one I was interested in at the time, but this was him bedded in my yard. This is a city buck. That's him bedded in my yard. And didn't think too much about him at the time. He's a cool buck. He's a cool 4-point. He's deep forks. And I really liked him. Ended up sticking around my house, my area, till later this season. Come January, him and 3 bucks were bedded. They were all staying kind of actually really pretty close to my house, so I was trying to keep an eye on him. He wasn't even the one I was interested in because he was like this. There was a big 3-point and a big 4-point, and then him. And he obviously probably scores more than the big 3-point, but he didn't look as big. And so I was just, kind of keeping a track on all of them. I was watching them, kind of just keeping an eye on them, not really like following them along or anything. But, I decided that I just was going to stick with them, see what happened. I was obviously looking for the biggest 4-point. I hadn't had any antlers off him or anything. I just liked him. So a little while into watching him, I noticed that this buck had shed. I also knew he had wire on his antlers. Didn't think anything of it. All I knew is that they were going to be together because of how much wire was wrapped around him. This is not a picture I took, but here's one of him a couple days before he dropped. Hopefully you can see that wire up in his antlers. It's kind of hard to see, but either way, a lot of wire mixed up in there. So I knew, in my mind, I'm like, all right, they're gonna be together. He hadn't moved that much around, so I kind of figured they'd be in the area. So I looked and I looked and I looked, didn't find anything. Well, we were coming home from the Salt Lake Expo in 2019, so it was like February 16th it was, and the neighbor that I talked to him the most about, I looked into his yard and I saw an antler sitting on the picnic table bench and it had wire on it. I'm like, oh, no way, he found it. So I freaked out and I ran down there and I didn't even go up to the antler. I just walked up to him and I'm like, oh dude, you found it. And he's like, what do you mean? He's confused and all. And so I walked him over there and he's like, I had no idea it was there. This is how the buck dropped one of his antlers, not both of them, kind of surprisingly, on the picnic table bench right there. And I imagine it was just him trying to get it off, but sitting on the picnic table bench. So that's what started this whole thing, was this buck right here, this shed right here. We call it, it's this is the wire antler off of the wire buck right here. This is the one that started it all, and I found it out the car on our way home on a picnic table. I also used to have it on a fake skull, so I kind of had to cut the base. I wish I never did that, but that's that right there. So I was like, oh my gosh, now I gotta find the other side. So I looked and I looked and I did grids and grids and grids, and I could not find it. But about, what was it, like 20 days later, my brother had a call from our neighbor that one of their horses had died, so he wanted him to go bury it. So Luke took down he took down his skid steer, he took down the Mini X, and he was digging a hole for the horse, and I decided to walk down there, see what was going on, and there was a strip of sagebrush in between the two houses. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to walk it just because of it. I kind of had already given up on it because I kind of figured, somebody found it or something. And I'm about to show you my reaction about, I'm about to show you my reaction of how I walked up on this antler. It's right here.
Smashed up the wire shed. I cannot believe this. Check that out.
So, as you can see, I was very worked up, very excited. And here's the pickup on that one. I never did film me picking up the one off the picnic table because it was just right there. And then the guy was standing next to me, so I just picked it up. But here's the pickup. Here's the pickup on this one.
I just matched up my biggest set. This is it right here. Holy smokes, I've been wanting that so bad. I cannot believe that. I'm surprised that it doesn't have wire on it, but heck yeah. That's my big
Anyway, as you can see, very worked up, very happy. I was super stoked. That was my by far my biggest brown antlers by the time. That's this other side. Also, the base is cut off of that one. But yeah, this is buck is like, he's like mid 150s. Nothing crazy, but the story behind it I just thought was unbelievable. And just gets better over time. And the next year, come around, starts growing again. The velvet starts coming up. And I found him again, and I was a little shocked. This is what he turned out to be that velvet season. And I'll get to why in just a little bit, but as you can see, he's actually a 4x7 right there. So he turned out to be an absolute insane deer. I watched him through the summer, and I only got to see him hard-horned like that one time right here. He didn't look as big hard-horned, but so that was him hard-horned. I think it was January. I found him again, and he had broken all but two. His eye guard and the longest point off. And so, naturally, I was pretty bummed about that because I was really hoping to get his big side with all 7 points, because I don't know what that would have scored or how you even would have scored it, but it would have been pretty cool. Anyway, I lost the buck for about a month after I seen it then in January. Let's see when this picture was taken. That was actually December 25th. That was Christmas, that's right. So I saw him on Christmas of that was 2020. No, sorry, that was 2019. And then I lost him for about a month. I was walking a sagebrush with this dog right here. We were just walking it. I didn't know where he had been, and just completely randomly walked upon his antler. And I was so shocked because I had no idea where he had been the past month. And here's my reaction, and here's the pickup on that one.
You guys, I'm freaking out. I'm taking my dog on a walk here, and basically I'm going through the sagebrush where the deer tend to be, and I just found the 4-point side off of a wire buck, and oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. Here's the pickup. Oh, guys, that has got to be close to my biggest antler. Brownie, and it is a side off of wire buck.
Anyway, very ecstatic on that. This is the first time this has ever happened, but I had 2 years off the same buck, one being a single, and then this set, obviously. So this antler ended up scoring 65 as a single. This one went 69 as a single. This one's right at 72. If he kind of lost this point, I'm not sure why. The year before, as you can see, it was up a little bit higher, but pretty cool anyway. I looked and I was knocking on doors asking who found him, and that's when I ran upon somebody that the reason that he actually grew the way he did that year was because I didn't know this, but in the year before, in August, so in 2018, August of 2018, he was actually shot twice with a bow. I heard he was shot low in the leg and high in the back. So I didn't even realize it until I looked at this picture closer, but you can actually see his knee. Look at his kneecap right there. Very messed up. That was of 2018 right there. So that's why he ended up growing funky. He is a city buck, but he was actually shot legally. And so anyway, yes, he was shot, so that's why he grew funky. But this is the antler that I found off 2019. Never, ever could match him up, which was technically just a big old spike with a eye guard that was like that big. I was pretty bummed about that. I don't know if anybody did find it or if it's still sitting somewhere that I'm never going to see, but never ended up finding it, which I was pretty bummed about. So the year moved on, and Kim, I think it was June. Yeah, late June, I found him again, and to my surprise, he actually turned back to be a typical, which is pretty cool. So that was him in June, and then here's him again in August of him completely grown out in velvet. And in this picture, I thought he was a lot bigger than he is because he always looks bigger in velvet. But so there's him in August. I really liked the look of him. I tried keeping track of him as much as I could. I loved both sides. I love how they grew. I took tons of pictures of him. Just a sweet buck, so I kept an eye on him. Got lucky. Took some cool hardhorn pictures of him too. That was in October. I took a cool selfie with him right here. I took a bunch of selfies with him, but there's a cool one sitting underneath that apple tree next to the elk shed. And then he left about November. He took off and he left, and I don't know where he went. And then I found him again. Let's see here. What was it? Like early January, I found him again, and he was living in a different part of the town. And not really a town. We're just kind of out here. But anyway, so I found him again in January, and I decided, okay, it's time to keep track of him again. And well, not then I decided that, but later on. So I knew where he was, and I kind of let him be. And then mid-February early, what was it, like February 13th or 14th came around, and I'm like, oh dang, he was shed by this time last year. Huh, bummer, maybe he already shed, that's what I thought to myself. So I'm like, yeah, I better go check anyway. So one day I was coming home, and I drove over to the part that he lives at, and to my surprise, he was still packing both antlers, where I was pretty shocked, and that's when I decided, okay, you need to watch him and wait, because you need to get him again. And so that was him. This was just recently, but so he still had both antlers, so I decided I needed to check on him every day. So I was checking on him. I was waking up before 6 o'clock, and I'd check on him at like 10 o'clock, and then I'd check on him at like 2 o'clock, and then I'd check on him at dark. And then I'd figure out his patterns. He lived through so many different yards that I was kind of nervous that I wasn't going to be able to pick him up. And there was 4 other bucks with him. I don't have the picture of those 4, but there was 4 other bucks with him, and I was just watching all 4 of them. I got some really cool footage of him fighting. Got all sorts of stuff. And then, so after being shot, I found him on a picnic table. I matched him up. I found his next year. He grew funky. All sorts of cool stuff to this buck. I watched him for about just under 3 weeks is what I'm calling it. Just under 3 weeks. And I go to get up one morning, and I told myself, I was sitting there. I was so tired. And I told myself, well, maybe I could just go find him bedded today rather than just going and watching him that morning. And it was like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm like, whatever, we'll just go look at him. So I get over there, and I found the one shed buck. Almost all the other bucks are shed by now, and I didn't find any of them except for a big 2-point, but he wasn't even one of the big 4. Anyway, I got over there, and he was with one of the bucks that had shed, only one antler. He had packed that antler around for like a week anyway. And I looked over into the trees, and there he was with one antler, and I was freaking out. I was like, oh shoot, where is it? So I'm frantically driving up, looking through all the yards that he walks through, and to my surprise, it was sitting where I could pick it up in somewhere that I had access to. And it was sitting, I found it out the truck, and that was the only way I told myself I was going to be able to find it. It was if I found it out the truck. And whoop, so that's that shed right there. Found it that morning. This is the darkest antler I've got off of him. This side goes 75, and I was absolutely astonished. I was so happy to find that shed, freaking out. There's 3 years in a row off the same side of that buck, and I was so happy. I knew that his other side was bigger, which was the side that he was still packing. So I decided to watch him, see what he did. Oh, here's the ATL of the first side. Just sitting there next to the road. I got so lucky. Decided to watch what he did throughout the day, and watched him bed down with one antler. And then I came back at about 10 o'clock, and he wasn't there anymore. So I walked down there. There's a spot, again, that I had access to. I walked down there, and he popped, and he wasn't there at all. Like, he was gone. I'm like, all right. So I went down there, looked to see if his antler was laying where he was bedded. Kind of confused because I don't know why he moved between like 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. And, well, as I go to walk down there, I'm looking around and I don't see anything. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to walk this way. So I started walking like down the draw type, kind of. And all of a sudden I hear of something erupting from the brush. Well, I look up to my left about 50 yards, and I can just see one buck just jumps up. All I can see is one antler goes with it. I see one buck, one antler, half a second, and then it takes one jump and darts to the left. And when he goes to the left, he had no antlers whatsoever, and I'm like, I just watched him drop. and I was just sitting there freaking out. I ran up there, and this is what I came upon, right here. That's what I walked upon. That antler sitting there in the bush, which happened to be this antler right here. Pretty much got to watch it fall off his head. This is also my biggest antler to date. Just a sweet buck. I like this buck so much. As you can see, he's got plenty of blood down there. Basically brand new. This is what it looked like after the second I picked it up. Just bloody burr, wet, all sorts of cool stuff. So that means I have this set off of him. This is by far my favorite set. And then I've got last year's single. This is 2020 single. And then this is 2018's set. So altogether, I have 5 antlers off the same deer. And I told you what these ones scored. This one right here went 77 7/8, which is my biggest antler at the moment. I'm hoping to break 80 this year, but all around a crazy story to him. I'm hoping to keep track of him till next year, and we'll see what happens. But appreciate y'all for watching. Pretty crazy story to this deer, and thank you.